afternoon, everyone. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Democratic Services, and it's open to the press and public. We welcome the use of Welsh language at meetings, and I've had no requests today to speak Welsh, and so the meeting will be conducted only in English. Please can members use the raised hand icon to indicate if you want to speak, and members to keep your microphones muted when the meeting has taken place. We go on then to agenda item 1. Any apologies, Dom?
I've got apologies from Councillor Sue Molson.
Sue Molson, thank you very much. Does any of the members have any declarations of interest? None at all? Thank you. Item number 3 then, minutes of the Democratic Services Committee held on July 21. Members, could you possibly state whether you have anything to raise in relation to these minutes? Oh, excuse me, I haven't forgot my glasses. If not, we will take them as approved.
Chair, my document reads June 16, 22.
Yes, it's June 22. June 22 it was, sorry.
Where? Oh, sorry. Not my fault. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Rose. As I say, I'm squinting. I've left my glasses up in the car. Agenda item 4 then, action sheets. Members, the updates on what has been done and implemented, committee's previous decisions are on page 9 of the agenda. Could you possibly indicate whether you have any questions or comments? No? Thank you.
No.
Members, do you agree with the updates and actions?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Everybody agreement with that?
Chair, this was deferred. Do we know when we are having it back on the agenda?
Can you hear me? It might not work. It's not on me, is it? Oh, sorry, my mic's not close enough. Sorry, my mic. Oh, now you can see me. That's part of me. This is the Diversity and Democracy Action Plan. It was put on hold in October of last year until after the elections to allow the new cohort of members to be involved in the ongoing Diversity and Democracy Action Plan. This is one of our work programme items for this coming year. So I think a report will come to the next Democratic Services Committee to move that project forwards. But for now, you know, it's something we haven't had a chance to get to yet with settling all the new members in.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Rose, you happy with that?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rose. So members agree to note the date on the actions, okay? All in agreement with that? Yes, thank you.
Yes.
They noted. Agenda item 5, Diversity and Democracy Draft Action Plan. Tom Roberts, Business and Democratic Services Manager, could you please present the report for us, if you would, please?
Thanks, Councillor Burnett. Sorry, I wasn't sure whether myself or Nancy was were going to say this one, but I'll have a stab.
No, I'm sorry.
Is that all right, Nancy, or were you going to take it?
No, it is me. I'm sorry. We've given Councillor Burnett had the wrong information in front of him. That isn't the name of the report. The report we're doing today is Hybrid Meetings Guidance, and it is me. Item 5.
Good. I was getting confused then, Nancy, so thank you for that.
I know, I thought we couldn't. Yeah, no, it's definitely me, and it's the Hybrid Meetings Guidance. So the key message of the report is to remind members of the hybrid policy requirements, but also to share the WLJ guidance, because they've recently issued some helpful guidance, some practical guidance in plain English, which I think is useful to share with members. So the background to this report is the Local Government and Elections Act requires Council to hold meetings without all or any of the members being physically present, which in Torvine now we're used to, aren't we? This is our new way of working now. And the Act allows for remote meetings through electronic and digital means using Teams, live webcasting and live interactive streaming. Our democratic services were given the opportunity, the committee were given the opportunity to consider the hybrid policy, offer any suggestions or changes to the policy in February of this year. And that policy then went to Cabinet in June on the advice of the Monitoring Officer for formal approval, and at Council on the 28th of June, it was agreed that the policy would be added as Appendix 23 to the Constitution, along with other changes that were needed because of the new Act. I think as we've now got our new cohort of members in place and the autumn cycle of meetings are underway now, I thought it was a good opportunity to remind members of the hybrid policy and consider any issues that members are experiencing. One of the important things to mention is that it's important that members are visible to other participants during the meeting any meetings they're attending. We've had some meetings recently where members have had their cameras off, and it's caused some confusion with people not sure who's speaking, and with the voting it's caused confusion as well when people have passed their vote but they haven't known exactly who they were. So, and because the meetings are often broadcast live, recorded and made available to the public via our website, I think it's important that members conduct themselves as they would in a public meeting. Sometimes members stand up, walk away from the camera, interact with other people, and it's just unsettling. And then for people who are in the meeting, they get distracted. So WLJ provided some useful guidance, which I've attached as an appendix to this report. We've had a consultation with all the group leaders about the contents of the report, and the thing that I wanted to emphasise today was that if members could keep their cameras on during the meeting, as they would if they were sat in the chamber, really. I think we've become very comfortable with our webcasting now, and sometimes I think we're a little bit too relaxed. And some of the guidance, in particular from the WLJ, I think is useful. One of the points they say is make sure that you're in the centre of the screen by positioning your device or camera appropriately and look into the camera. Aim for a head and shoulders shot, like a passport photo. Very often we see part of people, or not all of people, when they're sat there. Another one here, consider your personal appearance. You'll be on show throughout the meeting. It's just to remind members, really, that the public and everyone else can see them when they're on camera. And the other one, do not leave the meeting until it's finished without notifying the chair. Sometimes people turn their cameras off or they just leave the meetings. And I'm aware that when public are watching the meetings, it doesn't give a very professional attitude, really. So I just wanted to draw those things to your attention and seek your views, really, if you've got any comments about that.
Members, any comments?
Yeah.
Rose?
Yeah, I think it's a useful guidance. I think there's certain points on there that we have become lapsed, being in our own home and dealing with hybrid meetings. One thing that really annoys me is actually somebody sitting and eating their lunch while they're on camera, and I don't think we can say anything about drinking because we have a drink in the chamber, and we, very often lots of us need to have take in fluid. I think I've got a concern about the cameras being left on all the time, because sometimes you have members of the family that needs attention, and if we were in the chamber they wouldn't have it, I know, but sometimes you need to leave to go to the toilet, or the phone rings, or the knock on the door. So I believe that you should have the camera on when you're speaking so that people can see who is speaking, who is taking part. And I agree with the voting system. If you're voting, then you should be able to see that person voting. I didn't read anything about talking over people in the guidance, and perhaps there is a need for a little bit of training of because I know I've had a few examples of people talking over each other rather than going through the chair, and that's a couple of things that I just brought up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rose. Tom, come in.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was just to echo what Nancy was saying, really. For those of you who are kind of long in the tooth like me, democracy has been on a bit of a journey over the last kind of decade. A lot of members will remember, just in-person meetings, and if anybody wanted to view the meeting, they had to be there and attend the meeting. Obviously, over time, we started broadcasting meetings, and then so that people could view them remotely. And then obviously we've now introduced remote meetings so members can attend meetings remotely. But I think as we've made these improvements to make democracy more accessible, we need to guard against, I suppose, the diminishing of certain standards and reducing perhaps accountability and transparency. So agree with everything that Nancy has said, and it's just a report, I suppose, to help members to help themselves, and to make sure that we remain as accountable and as transparent as possible as an organisation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Any other members? Liz Haynes, thank you. Thank you, Liz.
Hi, just a couple of things really. I agree with Rose that that there's, back in the early days of webcasting, we were told that to turn our cameras off because it was causing the equipment to drop out. And so that's what I've always done. If I'm not speaking or voting, I turn my camera off so that there's not an issue with the IT. I agree with Rose, when you're at home. I mean, I'm on my mobile phone at the moment because I can't access the council web laptop at the moment, so I'm on my phone, which makes the appearance of me and the movement even more unstable. So having the camera on whilst I'm doing this on my phone is not exactly practical. The one thing that more concerns me is that just before the meeting starts, members do a lot of talking. Sorry about the background noise. Members do a lot of talking, and there's an awful lot of stuff that goes on that's said that concerns me, almost verging on isms and ists sometimes, and I sit there and cringe. And it's that I'd like addressed more than members being visible 100% of the time. Because that's made my eyes roll a number of times, and sometimes I switch my camera off because my face would say what I'm holding my mouth from saying.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, any other member? Is that Colette? Have you got a light on?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to say, I think it's a really good report, and I tend to agree with Rose and Liz, actually, that sometimes you don't need to just pop your camera off a minute. I mean, if you had a sort of cold, or you had a cough in sort of spasm or something, or sometimes you have a drink, I think it is helpful to switch the camera off. So, but on the whole, I think it's quite a good guide.
I'll come back on that one as well, and I'm in agreement with the other members there. And sometimes you have to go, you have a comfort break, or sometimes you'll put a cup of tea on, or somebody knocks the door, whatever. But as long as you're sat there and you're participating, but I think if you have to walk off, it's best to not leave a blank screen then. But any other time you're participating in the meeting, the camera's on, except for the circumstances we've just mentioned. Okay, any other members?
Yes, Chair, there was one point about the use of Teams, and I don't think I don't know whether any other member has, but I haven't had a complete training on Teams. I don't know that I would be aware without having a look at it about sharing a document and things. So I just wondered whether or not a refresher course on because we came into it in the pandemic and it was issued and it was like find your own way with some advice from Chris or anybody that we asked. I don't think I've had a complete training session on how to use Teams, and perhaps these guidance from the WLJ can start, and it touches on another agenda item is actually perhaps we need a refresher course on Teams, and to bring in these points as well. So.
Thank you, Rose. Absolutely, I'll agree with that one as well. I think we're all in the same boat, aren't we? 2 years of COVID, and it was struggled through it, and it's better everyone had a refresher course on it, even for setting your own Teams meetings up as well. Thank you for that, Rose. Gareth?
Thank you, Chair. It was just a reminder to members, appreciate it if members are going to leave, not leave the room or where they are stationed during a meeting. It's in many meetings, I suppose it won't matter, but there may be some meetings where you may miss some vital information that's been given or some argument, especially, for example, in a planning matter, where you may have missed some information which could affect any decisions that you make. So it's just a reminder to be conscious of that, and that if you are required, for example, you may be called away and that you've missed some information, then you may have to consider whether when you come back to just abstain from voting and maybe just to make a note of that, because if you do miss information and then you do vote, then it could be argued that your vote isn't a valid one because you won't have heard the argument. It's just a reminder of that, really. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Del, for that. Norma?
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say I agree with what the other members have said, especially the one that Rose brought up about people coming in without being called in by the chair. And when you're chairing a meeting, you don't know who that person is, talking over someone else. That's a really important point. And as Rose said, I don't think any of us have had formal training for Teams. We were just helped by members, officers, when we started off, and that was it. But I mean, I think really most members have handled it really well. And I think it's good that we can use Teams. But yes, I just agree with all the points other members have brought up, all valid points. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Norma. Rose, you've got your hand up still up?
Yeah,
yes,
just on Daleth's point, please, Chair, about leaving the meeting or being taken away for whatever reason. My broadband has been dropping out something badly. I've had BT back, and I've called them back again today. But the last few meetings, my BT has just dropped, and I have missed a couple of points that. And it's difficult to catch up or hear what the question is. But I would prefer to inform the chair and ask them to repeat if it was any, technical issue with our BT and our IT equipment, because it isn't the best. It drops out. As Councillor Haynes has said, my phone is out of order at the moment, and Councillor Haynes' laptop is, by the sound of it. But it is an issue, and I believe at Council one member dropped out in a couple of meetings this week. We've had the IT dropping out, and it's not their fault that they've left the meeting. It's the fact that the connection has been lost.
Thank you for that, Rose. If there's no other questions, if you turn to page 10, the recommendations are on page 10.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just come back?
Sorry,
Can I just come back on Councillor Rose Seabone's point? Yeah, I think members have can use their discretion really on each meeting. If they just missed something, which is like a couple of sentences or something, or that they can ask for it to be repeated, or if as I said, if it's just a couple of minutes, then obviously that's not going to affect their voting. So it's just to use the discretion each time. But I think we're talking about possibly longer, periods of time as well. Just to clarify. But what you could do is that if that does happen, you can always seek my advice during a meeting, really, because of course it's difficult when you haven't been present to know what you've missed as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, members. Just to say, training for teams, we can certainly look to do that, a refresher, or speak to Ashley in the IT department and arrange some training for members on teams. I know that they have training for staff. I know that when we first had to bring, when the pandemic started and we just muddled through it, and initially we just tried our best to get everyone online, and my team were all there to help you on the phone if they could. But no, I agree that we certainly can look for some. We can pick this up as well in the next item, which is about the induction and about what training members need. But I think that's a good idea that we would look to provide training for anyone who needs it. And also, in regards to this report, Councillor Haynes' point about the conversations in the chat before meetings are called to order at the beginning. I think that's something that we could consider adding to the hybrid policy. The policy's been agreed at Cabinet and is in force, but we would look to review it now within 6 months to see how we think it's working. So a lot of the comments from here today will feed into that. But I think we all agree with Councillor Haynes that the behaviour at the beginning of the meeting could certainly be improved. I think members forget sometimes that think they're still in the members' room before the meeting starts. And I know we have some banter then that goes on then, but I'll take that point forward. So if that's all, I'll hand back over to the Chair, unless anyone's got anything else they need to ask.
Well, thank you for that, Nancy. Okay, members, the recommendations on page... Oh, okay. Tom's got his hand up again.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was just problem that Councillor Haynes is pointing out is because members haven't been meeting in the members' room as often as they have in the past, and I think the chat before meetings that does become that members' room conversation. But I definitely agree with what Councillor Haynes is saying. It does need to be sharpened up, and it can look unprofessional. And just going back to, I think, Councillor Seaborn's initial point, which was, around, people having caring responsibilities, that they that children, etc. I mean, that's why this was brought in the first place. It wasn't because of COVID. This was always the direction of travel for bringing in remote meetings. It just so happened that it kind of coincided with COVID and kind of was the answer to that problem. But this was always going to happen as far as remote meetings is concerned, to help people become, to be elected members who had, care responsibilities or mobility issues. It was to make democracy more accessible. So, we're not going to police it to the nth degree. This, there's always going to be exceptional circumstances, and I think everyone recognises that. And yeah, I again agree with what Councillor Seaborn has had to say.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, that's everybody. Okay then, members. Recommendations on page 10. Are members in agreement with the recommendations? Okay. Anybody against? Any abstentions? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, agenda item number 6, evaluation of the 2022 members induction programme. Nancy, can you present this report, please?
Okay, thank you, members. This is evaluation report. Sorry, I'm just finding my page. Evaluation of the induction programme. And we want you to invite the committee to consider and approve the proposed evaluation questionnaire, which is attached as an appendix to this report. So following the elections in May, an induction programme was delivered to all newly elected and returning members, covering a wide range of topics, but focusing primarily on the key areas members need to undertake your role effectively. We do spend a lot of time and effort on the induction programme. We prepare it quite thoroughly in the months leading up to an election, trying to cover everything without overwhelming the members, because, you know, obviously not so much the returning members, but the new members. It's easy for them to feel a bit overwhelmed with all the information that they have to take on. So we try to do it in a way that they can access what they need, and then maybe revisit some things that they realise that they haven't got a full understanding of, or we can offer stuff in more detail once they've had the general introduction. So the feedback received from this survey will help us to compile ongoing training and development for the year ahead. So really, I would just like you to look at the questionnaire, give us any feedback, any questions, anything you think we should add, anything you don't think we need. One of the things I will just say that we have found helpful this year was the fact that after the initial first week, once the members had had their equipment, they were able to join the induction sessions online. They didn't have to come into the building, and I think we found that helped with the amount of attendance. Almost all the training sessions were well attended. As you know, we offered them twice a day for maybe working members, so they could have come at 10 or 5 in the evening. And I think we'll continue to do that bit going forward, but again, we'd like your views on that. So I won't read through the appendix of all the questions because you've got them in front of you, but I'll just open it up for any conversations or comments, please, that you may have. Thanks.
Rose, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It was just one point that was just made earlier, really, about the staff training. I get emails through, and I'm not sure whether it's staff training or member training, because I had requests for me to complete certain trainings, and I wasn't even aware that I had to. I thought my training sessions were with member services. But there are emails out there that, you know, I think the last one was a well-being. I haven't completed a well-being session, but I didn't even know I had to complete a well-being session. So there is some confusion on what is members training and what is staff training. I think we could define that. And, you know, if members were welcome to attend the staff training, that's fine, but we need to be aware of it beforehand. So there's an issue there. I think your questionnaire is really pretty good. I don't know whether or not the online issue, we could just fill the stars or what. I'm thinking just about accessing the form now. How would I fill in this form? Would I colour the stars in, or would I fill it, or, you know, so, or would you want it a manual form put in? So it's whether or not members are aware of how they can complete the form online. And I think that's enough for a minute till I think again. Thanks.
Thank you, Rose.
I can answer that question about the form. It won't actually look in this format because it will be online. This was just an example for the questions, really. I think the participation officer is going to compile it as a survey, and you'll get an email with a link, and you will do it online. So ignore the setup for really the look of it. It's just the questions that we wanted you to concentrate on. I think that's a good point about the emails that come through for the training, because they come to all Torvine, and again, we're not sure who they're meant for, so I can look into that and sort of find out, because I think some of the training would be beneficial to members that is being offered to staff. So I'll certainly speak to the training team who are sending the emails out and find that out.
Yeah, I think if you receive any emails informing you that you've been enrolled onto training, then that usually means that it's mandatory training. So that would be like your data protection training and your safeguard training. And then I think any generic emails are more for staff coming from the OD team.
Thank you, Dom. It's just about distinguishing, and if members knew what was statutory or obligatory, then perhaps that would help. Whereas the other ones were, by choice. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Yeah, I think we all get confused with these emails, don't we? What training is for who? So I'm sure Nancy and Dom will sort that out. Thanks very much. Okay, anybody else? Colette?
Just to say, Chair, I think it's a very comprehensive list of questions and comments. So, I hope you have a good response to the survey.
Thank you, Colette. Anybody else? Tom?
Thank you, Chair. I think the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act is a training module for members, as there is one for staff as well, but I'm pretty sure there is one for members. But I wonder whether we could sort this out by ensuring that it's quite clear on the members hub on the intranet exactly what is expected of members as far as training is concerned, and then there will be no grey areas.
Thank you, Tom. Any other questions from members?
It's just access to the soup. I don't know. I did read it somewhere, and sometimes that causes problems. I know I've had problems accessing soup on a number of occasions. So perhaps that's a training session in itself.
Maybe training sessions on everything. I think everybody needs refurbishing their brains every couple of years, because things change so rapidly. It's even I've had a conversation with members about how many officers are finished and staff, and nobody knows who's with us anymore, and some catch up on all that. Over the last 2 years, we've lost so many members of officers, and as members, we don't know who to go to sometimes, so that's a lot to catch up on as well. Rose?
The other proposal I was going to do, because Councillor Watkins and myself have had dealings this week, is the GIS system. It's a long time since I had a briefing on the GIS, which lamppost is where and what land ownership. We were looking at land ownership, and with the issues that we're receiving with Bronavon at the moment, and whose land is it anyway. I think the GIS system, I know Julia Evans, I've spoken to this week, has offered to do Jane and I a session, either remotely or in the chamber, or in the members' room, or in civic somewhere. And it's something that, because of the issues on land ownership with Bronavon Private or TCBC within our wards, it's causing us a lot of concern, certainly a debate in our group. So I wondered whether or not that could be added to. I know I'm going to ask for some personal advice this week, but I'm thinking that members are in the same boat. I'm speaking on behalf of other members, really. So thanks.
Thank you, Rose, and I'll agree with that, because I'd like to be able to catch up on that. I can't get on my laptop anymore. So things drop off, as you know. And very often I got to try and ring somebody up, and the situation really can't always get hold of anybody, so I've got to put it back onto my icons and have some training on that. That'd be a great help to us all, I think so. Thank you for that, Rose. Okay, members, no other questions? You'll find the recommendations there on page 15. I'm sure you've read them. Are members in agreement with the recommendations? Anybody against? Any abstentions? No, thank you. We go with the recommendations agreed then, thank you. Agenda item 7 then. The date and time of the next meeting is for Thursday, the 26th of January. Okay, if we get that in the diaries, members, and thank you for your attendance today, and thank you for the questions, and it's all been very helpful, I'm sure. Speak to you all again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.